Good day to all traders. Welcome to the last Market Insights video for this trading week. Today I'm going to talk about cable as well as loonie, as we expect the quarterly GDP figures to be released both in the UK and Canada. Now, aside of course from the economic data, which are coming out at 11:30 and later 2:30 GMT, pound is under pressure, as the chances of another referendum or a general election have increased following the latest parliamentary vote, where MPs voted none of the tabled options. But since the two closest options to getting majority was a customs union and the second referendum itself, pound declined over 1% against the dollar, and it is likely to remain under pressure today as well, as May will most likely push through her rejected deal once again in a latest attempt to get support from MPs. Note that losses can exceed profits, and none of the recommendations here constitute investment advice. Now, we are starting with pounds, the 4-hour chart. What are we seeing here? So prices were expected to move a little bit higher. At least I was expecting the prices to move a little bit higher from here, but we saw a rejection right at this level, and following, of course, this sort of bearish bias, we ended up correcting down to around below 130, right? 130 psychological, right? We saw a correction, and now we've broken outside this previous trend line, bottom trend line over here, and we could be looking potentially at having a retest at this level and moving a little bit lower, anywhere between 128, 125.80. The extension of this first wave is around 126.55. Of course, before we head down there, okay, we have a lot of struggles to get through first. The first one would be this trend line, which is around 130 psychological, and it's also a major support level. Now, if we go down on the 1-hour chart, we can see prices are moving pretty much in, it is like a closed triangle pattern, okay? So we get lower highs and higher lows, and prices are pretty much contracting. Now, because we're moving in ABC patterns, pretty much successive, I would be looking prices now, after this rejection down here, to move a little bit higher up for another correction, maybe near this level, which is 131.5, okay, before we start seeing further downside pressures. Now, of course, that could then turn out to be a correction, shorter one, okay, up to 131, which is the previous level as well, and prices turn back lower. But because I do have this sort of divergence signal here on the shorter time frame over here on the histogram, this signal is weaker. But because I have this one, okay, I also weigh in the possibility of prices just correcting a little bit higher before moving lower. Now, of course, this all depends on what's happening with Brexit, okay? Don't leave this factor outside, because it's very important. But for the day, we should be looking for directional bias depending on the GDP data, okay? The truth is that the Bollinger Bands are contracting. Volatility is high, okay? We're talking about 130, 131, like 100 pips or so, even higher than 100 pips. And we're looking for a breakout very soon. It looks like it's going to be a south breakout rather than north, because prices are moving down with a little bit of a strength over as the top Bollinger Band indicates. Now, I want to jump quickly on the dollar CAD. We haven't talked about dollar CAD for a while, so it's a very interesting pattern that has been developed in here, and we get quite a few signals on both the RSI and the MACD. Okay, on the 4-hour chart, all the signals we get are pretty bullish. Okay, now the truth is that bulls haven't really managed to break above new highs, and any attempt to move higher wasn't too strong because we didn't even get to reach the 135 psychological. Okay, there was a failure. So we are looking maybe at even moving a little bit higher, around 134.75 or so, to complete a double top. That will, of course, invalidate the closed triangle. It would just create a horizontal line on top, which is still the case. If not, we could see the rejection right here, and prices will start moving lower for what I expect to be an ABCDE pattern, where prices after that will go up to complete wave 5. As we said before, wave 3 is pretty small and a little bit not even completed as much, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some false break over on this wave or even this wave. So that's why I'm a little bit more cautious as to whether this is going to end up being a triangle of this type of formation rather than a close triangle. Okay, now we did say we're a little bit bullish on the from the MACD and RSI. We did actually see both bullish moves. I mean, this one over here is completed on that top, and this, of course, up here. Okay, I don't see any bearish signs over here, to be honest, on the 4-hour. But since I don't see any signs on the for the bullish side as well, I am going to factor in the actual resistance level in this occasion, and of course going lower on the 1-hour chart to see if we have any signals over here. So we came down in an impulse wave, then ABC pattern. We reached the 61-point extension of this first wave, okay, and this is around 134,400. So here we are seeing a double top, okay, in the shorter time frame, and from here, because we also receive a bearish signal both on MACD and RSI, we could expect prices to start moving all lower, even down to 133 before we have further signs. Now again, I want to repeat, it really depends on the GDP data as well, okay? So if GDP comes out weaker for worse than expected, then we are going to see dollar CAD forming a false break probably up here. We might see a rejection at this level or not. Now, of course, if the Canadian data come out better than expected or even similar as expected, because dollar has been weak due to yesterday's GDP, which was actually 40 basis points less than expected. So dollar is expected to be a little bit weaker on the fundamental front, despite the fact that it's actually it was actually strong yesterday, but that was mainly because of euro and pound weakness. So I would expect this trend line to break. First sign, we might stay in a range before a critical move occurs. Okay. Now we could of course also have another scenario here that prices move down in a corrective move. Okay. Instead of doing an impulse wave down here, we could see an ABC pattern down to around the 50 Fibonacci retracement of this impulse wave, okay? So that would be around 133,500, 133,700 or so. And pretty much these are all the insights I have for you for the day. Thank you for watching our daily video. Once again, I want to wish you all to have a great weekend, okay? And of course, keep an eye on our blog, because we always leave something for you to read over the weekend. At the same time, you can of course read all the latest news, stay updated about the markets. It's where we publish trading ideas, and it's where we provide all the necessary tools to serve you responsibly.